Good afternoon, everyone. Meat prices spiking in Brazil because of Chinese demand buying so much from that country. China's pork hyperinflation continues, new records set. The U.S. is now exporting half carcasses to China. I'm wondering if we'll experience the same food inflation because of Chinese demand. And when there was this much food inflation, it crashed the economy in China. But as I've said, about 1 year before the global food shortages start, the economy will be purposely imploded. Possible rally at the end of the year here for cryptocurrencies. But don't forget about our friend silver, because you don't want to end up in a soup line like this when your prices spike. And instead of giving money to the United Nations in a global carbon tax, I invite you to check out the Adapt 2030 December merch. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Men and women's short and long sleeve tees and hoodies. Warning, this design may trigger Al Gore. The link's in the description box below, and it's another way to help support the Adapt 2030 channel. Starting off here, Brazil's meat price spikes. Now this is directly because of Chinese demand buying so much of the pork because of the trade war in the U.S. They're not able to get so much, so they're scouring the planet to buy anything and everything they could possibly get due to massive pork shortages inside China. So meat and poultry spiking in Brazil on Chinese demand. And I love how the former president says, "We have to fight for the right of Brazilian workers to hold family gatherings, have a barbecue, drink a little beer," which makes us happy. Because looking at chicken prices, 8% up this year, pork up 15%, filet mignon 20%, and this is just the beginning of their price rises. It's all about these little critters right here. Pork, China's voracious demand because of the African swine fever that knocked out about 80% of their entire industry, which will not come back for a minimum of 3 years. This hyperinflation continues and continues as people are trying to stockpile right now for Chinese New Year to get any pork they can on their table during the holiday coming up at the end of January 2020. Now the pork hyperinflation has hit yet another record high. And consumer prices continue to rise in the country, and it's not just pork now, it's also fresh vegetable shortages. Gee, I wonder what would have caused that. Oh yeah, the unseasonable cold, rain, and the same things we're seeing globally. Now it's really starting to hit China, even with vegetable shortages up and up. Consumer prices, wow, they're really going to start changing their spending habits. So we'll see how people are going to change what they buy first in China. As an indicator how the rest of the world will behave, keep your eyes very closely on how the Chinese spending habits shift as their food prices continue to rise. Now, Smithfield Foods, the slaughterhouse in the United States, is pretty much buying up whatever pork they can and sending it directly to China. Now, this is interesting here because they're slicing it in thirds or just straight up half carcasses, freezing it, and then when it gets over into the Chinese ports where they need to have armed guards to now escort the pork shipments, the Chinese workers do it because they work cheaper than American workers. So when I'm talking about the carcasses, here we are. They're cutting it straight into halves like this, freezing it, sending it over to China. Now I'm wondering what will happen in the United States when our pork demand is high and China has been buying what we have. Will we experience the same thing as Brazil? And also, this is a workaround for importers in China. Here's some specific numbers for you. If you import frozen carcasses, it's only a 62% tariff duty compared to 72% for cut meats already. So you see how they're saving along the way. They get the cheap labor when it gets to China, plus they're saving extra on imports. You know, you start importing millions of carcasses, that extra 10% duty really adds up to be a lot of money. Now, taking a look at the China food inflation, see, this is the canary in the coal mine, and I've been saying since the beginning of the channel, about 1 year out from the true food shortages, the global economy will be imploded on purpose to prevent you from moving and billions of others as well to different countries that might have more stable climate for growing conditions as well as temperature. Now, looking at the trend, we can also see before that massive rise in commodities prices and then crash in 2009 and 10 with the global financial crisis. Look over there far right. This is exactly where China is again, almost exactly at the same point before it crashed. And the reason I bring up Bitcoin price seasonality is because exchange mediums Precious metals, crypto, if it crashes, you're going to need something to hedge your bets. Now, this is real interesting here because it looks like at the end of November into December, at least since 2012, there seems to be some price movement upward in cryptocurrency on a seasonal pattern. Could it happen again this year? Possible. There's an enormous amount of storm clouds out on the financial horizon, which are spooking people, even billionaires, to pull back on their yacht buying habits. And if we take a look at, say, the same time frame from 2011, if we take a look at the fractals moving out, well, you can be your own judge of, do you think it might increase and when? And the reason I keep talking about cryptocurrency as a solution for financial meltdown is our fiat currencies will have little value and they will not be honored or trusted amongst trading partners. So smart contracts are going to be the way to go. Vyper is the new one. Forget Solidity, forget Python. Vyper is where you need to look in the programming language moving forward with this. I believe this is how international grain shipments are going to be settled in the future. And if you really think crypto is a thing of the past already, look at the value of cryptocurrency in circulation in billions. We only have the top 4 or 5 economies, and then we got crypto. But you still have the option here of solid money, but you might want to think about how this financial thing is going to unwind during the Grand Solar Minimum, because you don't want to end up like these guys in a soup line begging for food. You want to have your own financial resources to keep your family safe during this transition period. And how prepared are you for emergencies? Long-term food storage? Do you have any? If you don't, take a look. My Patriot Supply, they also have water filtration, air purifiers, and a host of other things that you could get ready for these changes. My Patriot Supply, Adapt 2030. The link's in the description box below, as well as the Adapt 2030 merch. It's a way to help support the channel, and I thank you for watching. I'll see you next video.